If you look at the book, this book has a crest which begins in 1508, and then there is a steady downfall that you see up until 1857. And after 1857, you see a change in strategy. A secret society called as Shivaji Club. They were going and training there in Japan on explosives. The Long Siege wasn't the first choice as the title of this book. My working title was, now the British didn't like it. So they created certain regulations to tame down such ballooning activities. When Albert Einstein was not sure whether he should stay back in Europe or he should go somewhere else. And while he was searching for his next sanctuary, there was an option placed before him whether he could come to India and become a distinguished professor at the Banaras Hindu University. Bose had a scientific view of how to gain independence. He had a scientific view of how to progress the nation.
Welcome to Sangam Talks for another sit-down session, and we have with us today Sri Chaitanya Giri ji. Namaste sir, thank you for taking your time to come here, and we are pleased to have Chaitanya Giri ji, and mostly we will talk about and discuss about his latest book. The name of the book is The Long Siege. So what that's about? Before that, let me introduce Chaitanya ji. Briefly, Chaitanya Giri ji is an astrochemist turned science and technology strategy analyst. In 2014, Germany's Max Planck Society awarded him the Data Rapaker Prize for his research in astrochemistry and the origins of life, conducted as part of the world's first space mission to the comet Rosetta. He later pursued postdoctoral research on asteroidal and early nebula materials at leading planetary science laboratories in Germany, Japan, and the United States. He contributed in Indian space, polar, and science strategy initiatives through roles at the National Security Council Secretariat, Department of Space, and several science-focused ministries and agencies of Government of India. He currently served as a fellow of the Center for Security Strategy and Technology at the Observer Research Foundation. So, Giriji, this book is all about the rejuvenation of technocracy of India and how we survived the long 500 years of colonization from the Western powers and how we are reviving. And we are not doing it overnight. As you explained, and through short stories revolving around individuals, they are hardly known to the current generation or as all the Indians. So through that little stories, you conveyed that step by step how we survived that and sustained our knowledge system as well. So my first question will be, you mentioned one thing that is very prominent in that subject, that is complex convergence. Could you please elaborate about it?
That's a very interesting word that you picked up from this book, Debasis ji. I've been a chemist. I've been studying organic materials of asteroids, comets, early Earth. And the pursuit of doing that was, the motto was to hunt for signatures or evidences that could prove when did life exactly evolve here on Earth. And did it evolve from entirely native earthly material, or was there any extraterrestrial material that was transferred to the Earth? The popular word for it is cosmic panspermia.
Oh,
wow. That life came from somewhere else to the Earth when there were conducive conditions that were set on the early Earth. So all this chemistry, all these processes are very complex. It's not a very simple thing to begin with. Had it been that simple, life would have been prevalent across the solar system on all planets, and it would have been teeming with life everywhere. But that's not the case. And that's the reason why our planet Earth is very special. So life in itself here on Earth is a complex convergence. We are here at the right place, at the right planet, at the right distance from the sun, with the right dose of radiation coming onto us, not less, not more. A very beautiful temperature from minus 50 degrees Celsius
The
to
Goldilocks zone.
the Goldilocks zone to plus 50 degrees Celsius. And all this, you may think of it as serendipity, but it is a complex convergence. In a similar manner, if we look at our history, the history of Bharat, especially what my book discusses, the last 500 years. So starting with the year 1508, where the book begins, up to 1945-ish. In all those years, what I find is it was a period of scientific revolution. Europe was undergoing Renaissance. At the same time, Europe was also carrying out colonial conquest. So it was concomitant with each other. And while this was happening, in those 500 years, we kind of went into a decline. What were the reasons of the decline? Was it purely political? Was it purely economic in nature? Were we fighting too many fronts? Were we fighting the Islamic conquest only? Were we exhausted by it? All these questions started ringing in my mind. But later on, I thought that let me look at the past 500-year history with a very scientific underpinning. And while people read history with great interest on the history of politics, the history of economics, the social history, now the dharmic history as well is written by some prominent index scholars, I thought that let me touch on the scientific history. And when we talk about scientific history in India, we have this tendency of going too much into the past, talking about scientific inventions or discoveries that happened thousands of years ago. Because we have the liberty of doing that, we have a really long history.
Yes.
The longest.
We also need to revive that.
We need to revive that. But then there are this very peculiar periods which we need to study in great detail, in depth, because these were the catalytic periods. And I believe the last 500 years were very catalytic for the whole world,
Right.
and also for Bharat.
For last 500 years that you mentioned of colonization, 14th century to 19th century, we never, delve into that in that lens, with that lens.
Yes.
How technocritically we survive.
Yes. We don't do that. Although if you look at the Maratha history, if you look at Mughal history, but not from a Delhi point of view, but a Surat point of view. Surat was a Mughal port. Then if you look at the kind of voyages that were being taken by Pravasi Bharatiya in that era. So the Gujarati traders who used to go to East Africa, there were Arab traders who used to come to the western coast of India, and from there they took Islam to Southeast Asia. We were a hotpot. We were where all the major crossroads, all the cultures, Oriental and the Occidental cultures were converging. Again, a complex convergence. So the past 500 years were catalytic. At the same time, it were an aberration for us, where we kind of were unable to fathom what these people were up to, what the Europeans were actually looking out for. We welcomed them in great...
Because our civilization value system, as you mentioned in several occasions in the book, the weaponization of science.
Yes.
We didn't thought about it.
We didn't think about it.
And they took advantage of it.
Exactly. So up until Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's tenure, in his 1630 to 1680, up until then we were fighting wars with the ethos of Treta Yuga and Dwapar Yuga.
You mentioned that on your book.
Yeah, and the world had already moved on into the Kali Yuga.
Right.
So it took us some time to shake up and realize that no, we have to fight wars with the no rules era that Kali Yuga has brought in. And that's why you see Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj enters into guerrilla warfare. You have the Ahoms in Assam. They also carry out guerrilla. So guerrilla comes into picture.
Mughals
never
conquered them.
But then when we succeeded against the Mughals, when we succeeded against the Adil Shahi, the Nizam Shahi, we kind of pushed back the Afghan Durrani Empire. We kind of locked Mughals into the Bengal Suba, which was again a very prosperous region at that point in time, equivalent to what California has been in the past 20, 30 years. The nerve center of the global economy. Bengal was that. Irrespective of that, we were slowly being cut off from shipping lanes and shipping routes. Our ports were being choked and blocked as if you put a cork on a wine bottle. In a similar manner, access to Indian kingdoms, Indian monarchies, Indian empires to ports was completely, being terminated one by one, step by step. So
they became only the points of extraction.
And they were all controlled by Europeans. The French, the Danish, the Dutch, the Brits, of course, the Portuguese. All of them were kind of moving in our waters. And why 1508? Because 1508, 1509, those 2 years, the Portuguese, who had recently come into the southern tip of India in Kerala, they were moving northwards. And as they were northward, as in across the western coast of India. And as they were moving northwards, they were coming up against a stiff contest that was being given by the Gujarat Sultanate. And Gujarat Sultanate was not alone. What Gujarat Sultanate did was, at that point in time, it gave a call to the Ummah. So they got in the Ottomans. The Ottomans came to the Arabian Sea. The Mamluks of the Egypt, they came to the Arabian Sea. And together this trio, they fought against the Portuguese. So the Crusades, which up until then were fought in the Mediterranean, the Crusades was fought here in our waters, in Arabian Sea, in Diu. So when an Indian kings, Indian monarchies, we couldn't do anything over there. We were just bystanders. So being a bystander when all this was happening is something that costed us. So that's the reason why it starts in 1508. That's when we start losing out on ports. Our waters in Bay of Bengal, in the Indian Ocean, Northern Indian Ocean, in the Arabian Sea was infested by pirates, by privateers. It was infested by all these alien kingdoms coming and trading and leaving us no latitude or bandwidth to trade. They had militia ships, military ships, but they didn't have any trading ships of their own. So when you don't have trading ships of your own, when you don't have ports of your own, your economy is not going to survive for very long. And that's the reason why, despite great heroics, despite great accomplishments at war, in battlefields, whom we all revere in forms of various stories, we make movies out of them, we tell all these stories to our young kids when they grow up. Despite all that, we saw the lull. We saw that the transition when the Marathas kind of constricted the Mughal Empire together with the Sikh Empire from one side to the Ahoms from the other side. You have the Nepal kingdom who did not let the Mughals traverse into the Himalayas. They were confined eventually. But despite that confinement, loss of access to seas, loss of access to ports costed us very dearly. And when you don't build ships, when you don't have your own ports, you don't explore the world. It was during this period Australia was discovered by the Europeans. Not for the first time. There were already Aborigines who were living there quite happily. They discovered Australia. They discovered Terra Incognita. They discovered New Zealand. A lot of Southeast Asia, a lot of Africa came under European conquest. And we couldn't do anything. So today when we say that we are the voice of Global South, you need to be aware of all these aspects. You need to be aware of this history. And you can only see it from a perspective that this book has to offer.
So on the aspect of land grabbing and the dominion over the land, we survived the siege, and with the siege came in the form of naval siege.
Yeah.
And only maybe we will talk about in the concept of Hindi Swaraj, of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj ji. And it will come up later, maybe later after the first fight for independence. So let's go, before we go back to that, if you can elaborate a bit about how we, working step by step on rejuvenating our naval's prowess in between. Mostly you mentioned that we know that Mughal never,
never
accommodated that technology, but Maratha's dynasty was working on it.
Yeah, there was an attempt. So there's this great story of Baji Prabhu Deshpande. It was about the siege of Panhala. Again, the word siege there, where the Abyssinians, there was this Abyssinian warlord who was sitting in Konkan. And he was to be defeated because he has conquered, he had surrounded a fort where Shivaji Maharaj was stationed at the peak of monsoon, and he had to be kicked out. So Baji Prabhu quite bravely fought that battle in rainy Western Ghats, in the rainy Sahyadris. It's a treacherous terrain. It's not the best of the terrains to be at during that time of the year. Valiant battle, gave his life, and also pushed back this Abyssinian warlord. Now, later on, Maharaj found out that this warlord is being supported by weapons that the Brits were giving him in Konkan. So the first thing that he decides after that is, I'm going to give brickbats to this British. So the two factories that the Brits had set up, one in a town called Rajapur and the other one in a town called Saul. Both these factories, British factories, were usurped, taken in control of. And later on, Maharaj decided that I'm going to push the British and the Portuguese down south, closer to Goa, and confine them to the smallest possible territory, and then kick them out of the Bharatiya landmass. So he started encircling the islands of Mumbai. And that's when he also started moving up north, up to Surat. Now, why Surat? Because Mumbai didn't exist at that point in time. There was no Mumbai, but Surat was. And what today Mumbai is for India, Surat was back then. Surat was. So, and Surat was teeming with everyone. There were Arabs, there were Ethiopians, Abyssinians, then there were Mamluks, there were cosmopolitan to the core. Everybody there trading there. And here Maharaj was thinking that if I have to establish the Hindavi Swarajya, a Hindu empire on this landmass, I need to have a control over a port, a port city. And not just a port, but port city, because port city brings along with it
it's been funding all the campaigns Mughals in the Maratha
all over India, actually. All over India. So some of the biggest money lenders of the world were in Surat. Virji Vora, Mohandas Parekh, all of them. They huge money lenders. They were lending money to the Europeans in India. They were lending money to the Mughals. They had offices in Southeast Asia at that time. They had offices in the Middle East, in Aden, in Yemen, in closer to Muscat, in the Trucial states, in the Persian Gulf, everywhere. So Indian community was all over. Indian diaspora was global even then. So Maharaj wanted a piece of the cake there, so that the Hindavi Swarajya is economically strengthened. And historians, the kind of historians whom we deem as notorious ones, they decided to say that Maharaj looted Surat. So there's this narrative which goes on, which is not the case. So I try to counter here by saying that Maharaj didn't loot Surat. It was pragmatic of him to have a presence in Surat, number one. Number two, if you want to strengthen the Hindu empire economically, you need access to a port, a big port city, which is teeming with various professionals, professionals of all kinds, professionals who have global networks. And Maharaj wanted to build that. Here down south, closer to Mumbai in Kalyan, a city which exists even today. It's a major railway junction. He was building ships in Kalyan. Down south, he had an expedition in Goa. He had an expedition in Uttar Kannada, in Karwar, around that region. So it was all about ensuring that along with naval ships, the Gurbats and the Galbats and all those kind of ships that he was already building.
And he was fighting the Portuguese.
Though he was fighting the Portuguese, he was fighting the Mughals and other empires as well. His trading ships would go far and wide. So that was the attempt. You later on find that this continued up until the times of Bajirao, the first Bajirao, and his younger brother Chimaji Appa. So the famous Battle of Vasai, which was later fought in 1739, was exactly for the same purpose, that the Marathas wanted to kick out the Portuguese from the surroundings of Bombay at that point in time. Bombay by 1739 existed. It was given in dowry by the Portuguese to the British.
It was an archipelago of...
It was an archipelago of 7 islands. So the biggest island was where the fight was fought. The northern tip of the biggest island of Bombay. So that was when the fight was fought. Again, why? Because they wanted to control over the seas, control over important ports, important water mouths, river mouths. So we were always looking towards water.
So in essence, that time period of maybe 100 and 150 years, that was the first step of the long siege.
That was the first step to get rid of the siege that was coming up. But later on, after the demise of Bajirao the First, his younger brother Chimaji Appa, they died within a short span of time because of illnesses. And that changed the course of history. Then we all became, all the Indian empires, kingdoms, we became inward looking. We were fighting at various fronts. 1740s, Bengal. 1750s, by 1750s you had the Battle of Plassey, Buxar, the Anglo-Sikh wars, the Anglo-Karnataka wars, the Anglo-Maratha wars, all the way to Battle of Plassey, 1757-ish. So we were engrossed. And here you had the British, which had a very small presence over the Indian landmass, but they had a steady supply of the wherewithal that an army needs.
The weaponization of science.
The weaponization of science. And I've written in this book how the British East India Company, which was the face of the British in India, was well equipped by the British Admiralty, which is their navy at that point in time, and how the Admiralty was supplied with new innovations by the Royal Society. The Royal Society, which is known all over the world for its great sciences, great scientific innovations and inventions that it has kind of spawned. Even today, if you look at any scientist here in India or elsewhere in the world, they would crave to have a membership of the Royal Society.
Even though they flex about their ingenuity in science and how they contributed to their the first phase of their colonization. Even under the shadow, as you described, when I reading through the book, what I found that this book is chronicles of little stories of incredible individuals.
Yes.
And let's hop to the first battle for independence, 1857, which is popularly coined as first mutiny, though it's not that.
It's not that.
So how there is a gradual shift how these individuals contributed in building up a scenario that we at least resisted, and it's eventually get rid of them in 1947. So that part, if you can put up few characters like the first British capital in Kolkata, in South.
Yeah, in South, in Madras. So, Devashish, if you look at the book, if you read, even for the audiences here, you will find that this book has a crest which begins in 1508, and then there is a steady downfall that you see up until 1857. And after 1857, you see a change in strategy.
Right.
And then up to 1945, for the next 90 odd years, you see that Indians have really overcome in those 90 years. And in that sense, what the British always like calling as the...
I'll request the viewers to keep note of that.
Yeah.
Because please read that book as it is well documented of those incredible individuals and how to read it that way.
How to read
roadmap.
The roadmap. So this is the roadmap. There's a trough, and then there again a spike, a upward spike, and that spike continues even today. So it has not. We have not lost.
They're being kept under the shadow, but
yes,
their contribution is profound.
Profound. And I'm not of a believer that there has to be a certain father to a certain innovation or invention. You can't have a father of this program, that program, father of this science, that science. Science is a continuum. Science is a continuum. It's a contribution of several individuals who might have met each other or who might not have met each other. They might have completely worked in isolation. But today, if you talk to any great scientists and people who are studying neurosciences and the science of brain, they say that, and this is a recent discovery, they say that ideas, they don't get created in our minds. They get dropped into our minds.
Correct.
So where are they getting dropped from? So if that is true, then you can't have a father of any science. And that's why I have mentioned all these known and unknown people who have contributed directly and indirectly to various scientific pursuits of India.
And scientifically, as you try to walk through this, like the mindset and the attitude of technocracy, and also the ingenuity within yourself.
Yes.
To the attached with science and how to use it. You are a astrochemist scholar, and you find it, you read it that way that the readers will find that you keep bring up innovation on the mundane things which we in nowadays that found that it's a mundane thing, like the innovation on ceramics, on glasses, but it's contributed profoundly in the long run.
So in that particular aspect, talking about glasses and ceramics, of course, the big planet that made it possible was Lokmanya Tilak. Lokmanya Tilak had a immense role in establishing, as well as later on in the 1920s, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, who kind of inaugurated the Indian Ceramic Society in BHU after he had established the university. But prior to that, it was Tilak who kind of deduced that he was observing Japan very closely because Meiji era Japan was making great strides in industrialization. And the Indian Swadeshi movement had inkling that if India has to progress, it cannot continue with an agrarian economy. It has to transition into an industrial economy. And if you really want to fight the British, you have to industrialize. So there's a great story in this book where I talk about how some of Tilak's partners in Mumbai or his band of co-workers in Mumbai went to Japan in 1800s, in 1880s, in 1890s. They kind of picked up they observed the Japanese industry at that point in time, how good they were at ceramics, how good they were at making various types of glasses, industrial as well as ornamental glasses, and how those two industries could be brought here into India. And one thing leads to other. Lokmanya Tilak kind of observes it, and then there happens a famine in the Bombay Presidency. During that famine, it happens so that a lot of people pass away, they die, unfortunately. And then there is this one inconspicuous school teacher. His name is Netaji Kare. Netaji Kare, he lived back then somewhere close to Surat, just south of Surat, at the border of Maharashtra and Gujarat, modern day border of Maharashtra and Gujarat. And he loses his patience, and he decides that I have to do something. I can't continue seeing my people die in this particular manner. And one way that I can think of is they need some jobs beyond agriculture. And that's how he comes up with an idea of creating a Paisa fund.
Right.
Where he picks up one paisa, one pie from commoners and build a corpus and use that corpus to set up an industry. Such a novel idea. So Netaji travels all up to Lucknow. And traveling to Lucknow in that era was something else. He travels there, and a poor man, a school teacher, and who had lost a job. So he was doing all this after losing a job. Traveled to Lucknow. He met Lokmanya there at a Congress party congregation. And this is a pre-Gandhi Congress. He kind of voices his idea. Tilak tells him that you work upon this idea and come to the next Bombay presidency meeting of the Congress party in Satara. Next year he comes to Satara. He works upon that idea like a startup, like modern day startup. He polishes it. And then within a span of next 5 to 6 years, a Paisa fund company was established. Now this Paisa fund company had 4 ideas on its table. One of the ideas was to make a glass factory, a glass factory and a training institute sort of thing. And a training institute later on comes up close to Pune. Now this training institute had trainers coming from Japan. Japanese coming to India in 1910s, 1920s and training the workforce there in India. And some of this workforce later on sets up shops in Ambala, they set up shop in Kolhapur, and all parts of India, in Gujarat, in Morbi. And that's how the great Indian ceramic industry has come up. The ceramic industry, which is right now worth nearly 60-70,000 crores. That's the kind of volume it generates, monetary volume that it generates. So, unsung people. Nobody.
No proper, academic background.
No proper academic background.
So there come the next question. You mentioned about the establishment of the universities in Calcutta, Madras, and there are several institutions made by Indians. So the scenario was that the Britishers didn't feel like educating the natives, but in science. Science, but as I found out, if I'm wrong, please correct me. Well, they wouldn't have to teach us the science, but they would make like the Macaulay Indian system. They will to produce native Britishers. But we, in our ingenuity, in our mind, our entrepreneurship, there are some incredible individuals. They came up with ideas and they bring up native institutions. So that story, please elaborate on that.
So, Devashish, 1850s, early 1850s, right before the First War of Independence, the British began establishing universities in Madras, Bombay and Calcutta. All well and good, universities established. But these were not research universities of the sort that they had in Oxford, in Cambridge, or in Edinburgh, Glasgow, wherever, Manchester. These were teaching universities. And the whole emphasis of creating these universities was to have babus that would serve the empire. The university later on also spawned numerous jurists, medical doctors and everything, professionals that the British Empire needed. But the British were quite deliberate in their effort of not establishing science departments in these universities. So for nearly 70 to 80 years, these first 3 modern day universities of India, which people consider as the first universities of India, they had no science department. And the purpose for doing that was, which I have mentioned in great detail in this book, is that science would have helped us in attaining independence.
Right.
And the British knew it. And that's the reason why they kind of confined us to the very few topics that they wanted us to expose to be slaves, to be useful servants of the British Empire, not for any other purpose. So science was kept at bay from us. And by the time we had a new middle class emerging, in big cities at least, this middle class was especially doctors, there were jurists, there were lawyers, there were barristers, and some of them earned really good money in that era as well. Diligent workers, and they developed this sense of giving back to the Indian society. So several institutions came up all across India. One of it that needs mention here is the Indian Association for Cultivation of Science, which was established by Mahendra Lal Sarkar, a doctor by himself, medical doctor himself. He thought of creating a Hindu emancipation, an Indian emancipation. And that would only be possible by supporting sciences. The first beneficiaries of this Indian association were J.C. Bose, C.V. Raman, and if you consider them to be the first of the modern scientists, homegrown, who were not trained anywhere else, they were the ones who, or their students, later on went all across the world. And if I have to trace the origins of all Indian modern Indian sciences, be it our defense program, of our space program, of our atomic program, I will date back and take it back to these individuals. Had there not been an Indian Association for Cultivation of Science, there wouldn't have been an atomic, space, or defense program. Because this institution created that necessary critical mass of modern scientists who would be recognized the world over. Just imagine that within 40 years of establishing this institution, you had the first popular scientist, globally popular, C.V. Raman.
The
J.C. Bose.
potential for that
Potential for
upward
that,
curve.
the upward curve. And this is something that the British were taming. So why again the long siege? We were under a siege. Our ability to venture into the seas, our ability to explore the physical world, our ability to explore the unknown and the unseen world through sciences is something that we were not allowed to do. That's why, despite the fact that C.V. Raman is known for his science, his Raman spectroscopy, he gave that to the world. But we are still not able to build Raman spectrometers in India. So this pain of not having a homegrown instrumentation, scientific instrumentation industry kind of reflects in that chapter.
J.C. Bose doesn't get validated
For his science on at the interface of biophysics, where he worked. You can call him a botanist, you can call him a physicist on his cresograph.
Maybe only can happen in India.
Can happen in India. So the great emphasis that we have on interdisciplinary sciences, you already had those. And despite or irrespective of any exposure to Western way of doing science.
And in that era where we are accumulating that potential, few entrepreneurs also, you mentioned few characters, small one, big one, they are contributed in their self, and that eventually, make that potential possible. If you want to mention few of these characters. So the entrepreneurs.
I've mentioned in great detail about Govind Narayan Poddar. Govind Narayan Poddar, again a very interesting history. He was part of something known as the India House in Tokyo. Right. People know about the India House in London, but one big distinction between the two India houses.
Yeah, that's a great revelation in that book.
Yeah. There was an India House in Tokyo. So you relate the India House in London to Savarkar, to the other revolutionaries that were stationed there, Shyamji Krishna Verma. But nobody has spoken about this India House in Tokyo. This Tokyo India House had people coming from Maharashtra, from Punjab, from Rajasthan, kids, all young boys mostly. Young boys from this part of India, northern India, Delhi, UP, this region, coming from well-to-do families but wanting to study sciences so that they could set up industries here of various kinds. So studying industrial science was a passion that got them to Tokyo. And Govind Narayan Poddar was responsible for setting up that India house. Now, Govind Narayan Poddar was not alone. He was a kind of a protege of Lokmanya Tilak again. Because as I said earlier, Tilak had already made inroads into Japan. And of the many individuals that got connected in that particular venture.
Tilak in turn, if I may,
Yeah.
connected to the ideology of Swaraj from Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. You connected the dots. Perfectly.
Yeah. Because all that is central to the Swadeshi and the revolutionary movement. And I have envisaged science, the history of Indian science, at the intersection of Swarajya, at the intersection of Swadeshi, at the intersection of our Krantikari movements. And there was a steady supply of people from Kolhapur, people from a secret society called as Shivaji Club. They were going and training there in Japan on explosives, on chemistry of explosive materials. Japan was very well known for explosive materials.
Consciously or unconsciously, you can tell properly, as you researched over it, they are making an intricate web.
And I must tell you here, you've used that word right now. The Long Siege wasn't the first choice as the title of this book. My working title was The Labyrinthine Long Bore.
Okay.
So when you say intricate,
right.
I was looking at it like a web.
The spider web.
A spider web, yeah. A spider web where every vortex of the web was very much important for sieving the history of India. So that's the reason why...
Yeah, I will ask the viewers, kindly take the mental note. It is like that.
It is like that.
You will find it's like a thriller.
Even now, when I'm trying to explain to you, we are trying to revisit the book, I'm getting lost in certain tracks. Right. And I'm wanting to get back to a track that we are interacting on. So, and the book is written in such a manner that you would want to read it again and again. It's hardly a 160-page book. You may finish it in one go.
In my opinion, you can't.
You can't.
You have to reread it
Reread it again and again. So it's like a good web series. It's like a good movie that you want to revisit again and again.
I found one character who was, very much into technology of balloons.
Yes.
And he, put his life into in search of that.
Yeah.
New frontier.
So
that would itself make a very nice web series, I think.
Ramchandra Chatterjee. His name is Ramchandra Chatterjee. So the one big reason why the Brits were not allowing us to do science was, of course, as I told you, it would have been a panacea for our liberation. And the Brits didn't want us to liberate us. There was a lot of racial derision, a lot of racial taunts that were being subjected towards us. And many of these taunts have been chronicled. So my book is full of those racial taunts that were, kind of thrown at us, which people must read.
People must read
those taunts. Those taunts are written in such a way that they were looking down upon us. They were telling us that you can't do science, you're not capable, you're not mentally capable, you're not physically capable. They would make fun of us, they would laugh at us. There used to be insider jokes upon us, especially on certain communities. Bengal had numerous famines around that time. Mid 1800s, 1900s, around that time. Man-made famines, British-made famines. And that costed the public health in Bengal quite dearly. And of course, if the public health is poor, there is not enough nutritional supply, you see certain physiological changes in the bodies. And if you're not optimally performing due to lack of nutrition, you would often make mistakes. You would often make mistakes at work. It could be clerical work, it could be physical work. And when they used to, commit those mistakes, the Brits used to, as you've seen in numerous movies, in other forms of literature, they used to carry out atrocities. And there used to be racial profiling, there used to be racial taunting, subjected towards us. So Bengali Babu, or any statement that starts with the word Bengali Babu, used to have a racial undertone, which would talk about the poor mental or physical capacities of a typical Bengali person. Now, to get rid of that, Nabagopal Mitra started the physical movement, the physical exercise movement, and numerous gymnasiums came across all over Calcutta and all over Bengal. So that there is again a great spirit of good health created amongst Hindu men and women, a sense of not only keeping good spiritual health, but also physical health was also promulgated by Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda emphasized greatly on both spiritual as well as physical health, whereas he rather emphasized more on physical health than spiritual health. And
that's also a turning point in the Labyrinth, which pioneered the future, the later organization like
the Anushilan Samiti, the Anushilan Yugantar. All the revolutionary movements in Bengal are credited to that particular physical movement.
Not only Bengal, it's contributed to the whole of the nation.
The whole of the nation. The whole of the nation. So even if we look at the revolutionary spirit in Maharashtra, it was full of physical activities. Right. There used to be a lot of pahlwans.
There was never one regional effort.
There was never one regional effort. They're all interconnected. And all had the same traits. All had the same facets.
Right.
So when gymnasiums came up in Bengal, the akhadas of Maharashtra also kind of got revived. Despite the famines and the droughts that were created by the British. So the bottom line is that out of this particular akhada or the gymnasium in Bengal came one Ramchandra Chatterjee. Ramchandra Chatterjee became India's first balloonist, where the first hot air balloons in India were flown by him. He was part of this physical movement, Nabagopal Mitra's Hindu Mela. And as part of that, while he was making those balloons and flying on those balloons a few hundreds of thousands of feet above in the atmosphere, people were getting enchanted by it.
Right.
Especially young girls and boys
who had
never seen an aeroplane. There was no helicopter at around that time. There was nothing flying in the skies. Something like this flying so high in the air would of course create some kind of furor in the city and excitement amongst youngsters. So he attempted that. The know-how of making those balloons came from the French through a few Britishers who were not exactly scientists but who were called as adventurers. So these British adventurers came to India in Calcutta. Ramchandra got connected to them. He started building his own balloons, and those ballooning activities continued for a few years. And then in one of the accidents, Ramchandra Chatterjee perished, and within next few years,
He never stopped.
He never stopped. He perished in one of the accidents while ballooning. Now the British didn't like it. So they created certain regulations to tame down such ballooning activities. Because they felt that if these kind of ballooning activities begin, they could aid the revolutionary movements.
Yes.
What if somebody is carrying weapons on such balloons? What if somebody is carrying scientific instruments on such balloons? So it would lead to some scientific discoveries or inventions.
They understood that it will, give the encouragement to the confidence among the Indians.
Exactly. And audience must also note that these events were prior to Wilbur and Orville Wright's aeroplane, Kitty Hawk. They were at least 20-25 years prior to that. So nothing had flown in the air which was heavier than air.
Well, we are now on the upward curve, and I will hop to the climax now.
Yeah.
You talked about the revolutionary nationalism, the politics of science. So there is been that intricate labyrinth, as you explained. It's produced several incredible characters, and the big names are there like scientists like Baba, C.V. Raman, and how they are connected to Subhash Chandra Bose, and how profound. I mean, we have seen, we have heard, we have read about his life and how he became the most dangerous enemy of Her Majesty, but how they're connected and how that contributed uh, at the very end the independence of India. Please elaborate.
Yeah,
on that.
very quickly on this. 1918 is when the First World War is almost coming to culmination. And the British had back then drafted something known as the Industrial Commission Report, where it was discussed what kind of industry would come in India. And as part of the report making, there was a special place for Madan Mohan Malviya ji to write a note about what kind of observations he has to make. So he was pretty clear that India can't be an agrarian economy. It has to become an industrial economy. You need an industrial cadre, a kind of a ICS for industries, administrative services, civil services for the industries. You need to have trained scientists who would work in these industries and who would innovate for these industries. There were quite a few recommendations of similar kind. Now, these recommendations were lying in at the back burner, and nobody had touched upon. Although Madan Mohan Malviya ji kind of went ahead, established the Banaras Hindu University. He was in communication with a lot of Western scientists. One particular fact which I have not written in the book, but which exists, which many know, that he had invited Albert Einstein when Albert Einstein was not sure whether he should stay back in Europe or he should go somewhere else. And while he was searching for his next sanctuary, there was an option placed before him whether he could come to India and become a distinguished professor at the Banaras Hindu University.
The time of the Great Wars.
During the time of the Great Wars. But he had his reasons. He chose to go to Princeton, and Princeton is where he was because he also was a central figure in the formation of Israel. Imagine Albert Einstein connections as well as imagine Albert Einstein being in Varanasi and helping in the formation of Israel, sitting in Varanasi. What would that have been? So
it was like the right shift towards the correct political mindset.
To correct political mindset. So Malviya ji was working on his plans. In 1933, Meghnad Saha, who back then had already become famous for his ionization equation, he was very well known across India. He was part of the who's who of Calcutta. He had written a letter to Subhash Chandra Bose, who was back then ailing with certain
If I may,
ailments.
let me, sorry for the interruption. You also connected the dots from C.V. Raman ji to Meghnad Saha as well. That book. And that story, viewers will find it on the book. Please read about it.
Yes. So, Debasis ji, so Meghnad Saha writes a letter to Bose stating that, look, there are great journals that the Westerners have established. Nature in UK, Nature Journal in UK, Science Journal in the US. We need to create our own journal and we need support for it, political support for it. And that's why we come to you. And Netaji appreciate that there is a letter communication between the two, and quite a healthy one. After that letter communication, both of them grew close to each other. And when Bose became the president of the Congress Party in the late 1930s, his last of the public years, before he went on that whirlwind adventure, a story that we all are so fond of, he played a big role in the establishment of the labs that we now know as the CSIR labs. The CSIR does not acknowledge it for some reason, because later on, when India gained independence, there was a certain kind of polity in the country which did not like Bose's name to be associated with activities of national importance. So his name was promulgated and again to the back burner. But Bose had played a great role in establishing these institutions. And if you read the book, you'll also get to know that Bose had a scientific view of how to gain independence. He had a scientific view of how to progress the nation. And he was also of the view that what are the scientific parameters that lead a nation to become a dependency or to get colonized. That kind of a perception, that kind of a perceptive view of the world is something that no one today has come across or ever in the past. The facets of his personality, these facets of his personality haven't been talked about, and this is something that every politician, aspiring politician, as well as policymaker, decision maker, bureaucrat, technocrat should take very seriously, because what he's trying to say is there are scientific reasons that we stayed colonized. There are scientific ways of getting out of colonization, and there are scientific ways of progress. So Bose has written all this in his various letter communications. He said this publicly in various of his public lectures, but we haven't taken notice of it. And
that is one of the profound revelation from the book. And that aspect of Bose we never know about.
We never heard about that.
And how much he was ahead of his time.
He was very much. And these are the multitudinal facets of his personality that make him so great. Even today when Mission Netaji group, Chandrachud, Anuj, when they write books, when they do podcasts, even on your platforms, the videos are revisited again and again because people are curious to know about Netaji, his life, his afterlife, what happened after 45, and why are we so interested in him? Because his personality is so deep, and his contributions to the country are so deep.
This book is contributed to another layer.
And I've had the privilege of discovering a new facet of his personality. And one thing to be very clear, that he did all this. He was preceded by Jawaharlal Nehru as the president of Congress. So there was a tenure when Nehru was president. After that, it was Bose, and then after that, after his departure, Bose then formed the Forward Bloc, and later on he went to Germany. But despite the differences that people talk about between him and Nehru, he ensured that this industrial committee that he had established, it is chaired by Nehru. So there was no animosity, there was no angst against Nehru in his mind. That's how you can
You're not confident to say
fathom.
The other way around.
No, that's how you can fathom the large-heartedness, the big-heartedness of Bose towards Nehru. And of course Nehru towards Bose, because Nehru eventually saw that these institutions get established. So these were the first institutions to get established starting 1942. And then 1945, you have the icing on the cake with the formation of the Department of Atomic Energy, which started with the formation of TIFR by Homi Bhabha. So today, when you see small countries getting attacked, the presidents getting kidnapped, all this happens because they're unable to protect themselves in any way. They don't have air defense. They do not have any kind of deterrence. They do not have any kind of scientific capability that they can brandish in a way that kind of makes their adversary enemy think twice before taking any step. We established the Indian space program to showcase our scientific prowess. We established the atomic program to create deterrence. We later on created the integrated missile defense program, which spawned off numerous missiles. Some of them are nuclear tipped. And all of these ensure, in ways small or big, in keeping our country safe, in ensuring that we get a safe sanctuary within the Indian territory to make progress of all kinds. And if you take out all these layers away, none of this would be possible. You would be prone to attacks. Today, when the Indian government is ensuring that it will go on to build ships, maritime ships, commercial ships, container ships, commodity ships, bulk natural gas carriers, crude oil carriers, all of this is happening after 500 years.
And nothing have it overnight.
Nothing has happened overnight.
It's all happened gradually.
It has happened gradually. So that's why I believe that it's a complex convergence again.
Right.
It's a convergence of several pursuits by people, great, rich and poor, people from all walks of life, who ensured that Bharat comes to a stage where it does not have to bow before anyone, and it can stand tall in the Committee of Nations. So the book is about that. It's not a sob story. It's not a sad story. I'm not asking for reparations from the British in this book, like Shashi Tharoor ji. I'm not asking for any arms. I'm not asking for revenge or retribution. But it is simple laying down of facts. And many of these are unknown facts, at least unknown to the common public.
Right.
So I've written this book for common public, for the youngsters, who are taking great interest in our history once again.
So one of maybe the last revelation, or one of the many revelations I found in this book is that it give you the purpose. Read it, you will find it that it will give you the revelation that each step we take, that is the legacy of these remarkable individuals, and how in a Labyrinthian way they are all connected.
They're all connected to each other.
And that's the attitude you should keep, whoever like to read that book, to read it that way.
And it's based on Bhagavad Gita. It's based on the teachings of Lord Krishna, where he says that you have to put in your karma and do not expect any fruits out of it. Karmanyavadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. So all these have done their karma, and the phala of their pursuits, of their undertakings, is what we see today in the kind of manifestation that Bharat has
Recognize that legacy.
Recognize that legacy. So these are our pitars.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And I hope, the viewers will find the energy from that, the vibe from that podcast to read and, provide that recognition to these remarkable individuals and our remarkable country, Bharat.
Thank you. Thank you.